In this video, I'm going to talk about whether or not you should upgrade your camera, especially if you have a Nikon D55, 56, and Nikon 3500 or any of the entry-level Nikon cameras. Is it time to finally upgrade? And if you do upgrade, which camera should you get? And what's the difference if I even upgrade? Is it even worth it? Stay damn tuned, yo. So, if you're a videographer just like me, eventually you're gonna need to upgrade your camera. This right here is a Sony A6500 with a Sigma 1.4 lens. Nikon, I'm all for it, but eventually you will have to upgrade because things like this camera is 10 years old now, shoots 60 frames in not even 1080 but 720p. You have not a lot of good autofocus tracking and a recording time limit, and more importantly, if you are a video person, 4K is becoming the norm. So as much as I preach about staying with and using what you got, if you want to start in 2020 and you already have a Nikon and you're looking to upgrade, these are the reasons why you need to upgrade. Reason number one when it comes to why you should upgrade is that mirrorless cameras are the future and they're here to stay. And you have even Nikon discontinuing lines of the D5000s, the 7000, the 3000 models, and now they themselves are also starting to catch up, and you have cameras like your Z50s, for all you Canadian people, your Z50s, your Z6, your Z5, Z7. But with that, you have Nikon still lagging behind in terms of investing in lenses that are much higher point, and they don't have much of a collection yet. So when it comes to upgrading your camera, you want to look for things like, especially if you're in video, is that you have fast autofocus. Like I said, you also want to have unlimited recording time. You want to have an audio monitoring jack, as well as 4K, 120 frames per second, having the ability to do slow motion. And of course, in this day, 1080p in at least 60 frames per second. And overall, mirrorless cameras have more of a lighter form factor, and you're essentially going from a Corolla to a Honda Accord. If any of you guys drive and understand cars, that is what you're going to. There's nothing wrong with using a Nikon for video, but even for me, this guy right here that I'm using, the D5200, even with a nice lens, yes, they might get away with my own YouTube videos in my home studio, but if you're doing anything like amateur video production, you're much better off being able to film in 4K to be able to future-proof your footage, as well as not having to always rely on doing things like this. And it is a luxury, especially if you're in video and you want to rely on autofocus. And I'm gonna do pretty much a side-by-side comparison, which will blow your mind in terms of having the Nikon D5200 and having a Sony A6500 4K, same settings, and you will be able to see in terms of better low light performance, better autofocus tracking and not hunting, and overall just a better all video quality image. I am recording on the Nikon D5200 Sigma 16 to 50 2.8, as well I'm shooting on 4K on the Sony A6500 with a 30mm 1.4 lens, and the only light I have right now is a little fill or hair light in the corner with just a clamp light facing the window, and there's no other lighting. And I'm just gonna do a little example of me walking back and walking up. As you can probably hear, Nikon is constantly hunting. And you constantly get that pulsing effect if you decide to use Nikon for video in the DSLR model line, because it's just the technology, it's a lot older, versus if you use a mirrorless. Here, I just back up. And the cool thing about shooting 4K cameras is that you can punch in and punch in out if you want, if you downscale in 1080p. And this is the huge winner when it comes to investing in gear where yes, you can start with a Nikon camera, but eventually you would want to upgrade so you can be on par with everyone else. And you can get over the debate of, yeah, I'm gonna go APS-C mirrorless, but full frame is better because I'm getting a bigger image sensor, I can better low light and all that stuff. But when it comes to 4K camera, if your camera 24 megapixels in YouTube, it compresses the video, and all you are is you make a video creator, content for online digital marketing. APS-C 4K camera, any 24 megapixel camera is more than enough. Micro Four Thirds I'm not really a fan of, so I would rather have you invest in APS-C camera like the Sony a6600 or the 6400 or even the M50 if you're looking for really budget and still shooting in 4K and mirrorless. But yeah, this is my little comparison. So you're like, okay, Peter, I hear what you have to say, and I have, let's say, $2,000 budget. What camera do you recommend? Well, if you just still want to stay within the budget realm and get every bang for your buck, I would recommend you still stay within the APS-C sensor lineup. Of something I recommend is the Sony, with the newest model being the Sony a6600 with the audio and monitoring jack, as well as 4K capabilities and 120 frames slow motion. And you're looking at pretty much, you can't go wrong with a Sony with APS-C, but you're still looking with not the best low light capabilities. But that is the camera that I use and I recommend for people who want to stay within the APS-C line. And also know that if you stay within the APS-C crop line, even if it's mirrorless, you're still looking at paying $700 to $800 per lens, compared to if you go full frame any lineup, you're looking at $1,000 to even $3,000 for any sort of lens. Keep that in mind. And as well as staying within the APS-C line, there's also cameras like I recommend the Fuji X-T3 and the X-T4 if you want to get into video specifically. And as well, staying within the Sony line, you want to go for the A6600. If you're more on a budget, there is the A6400 and the A65 and 63, but also know that there's no audio monitoring jack and you have things like overheating issues. As well as within that family, there's also the Canon M50 if you want to stay within the realm. And all these cameras that I just said, you can't really go wrong in 2020 in terms of buying a mirrorless camera that shoots 4K. If you have the budget of $2,000 and you want to invest in a mirrorless camera, any of those cameras that I just mentioned, link is in the description. You put that with a decent 18 to 50 kit lens that comes with the camera, on top of getting like a Sigma 30 1.4, 16mm 1.4 on any of those cameras, you are good to go and you'll be on par with everybody else. You can't go wrong in 2020 buying a new camera today. So when it comes to, we're in this day of 2020 and you have a Nikon camera, I'm not saying it's impossible. You can definitely start, do it at home, maybe do some mom and pop shop videos, but eventually, even if it's a D5200, you're gonna eventually wanna upgrade, especially if you're anything like me and you wanna be in video production. All the cameras that I just listed, you really can't go wrong with them. There is a little pick and choose if you want things like audio monitoring, better autofocus. For example, Sony has a much better of an autofocus system than Panasonic, than the GH5, the GH5S. And if you're looking at things for more of a hybrid camera, there's definitely things like staying within the Nikon. If you want to still use your lenses like the F to Z mount, you have your Z6, your Z5s, and your Z50s. And don't get confused, I am Canadian, so I say Z. And like I said, every camera that I just recommend, you can't go wrong, man. And if you're looking more at things like better IBIS and less of a rolling shutter, then Panasonic is the way to go, but they do not have the best autofocus system. And this was just a beginner video overview of which cameras I recommend. If you guys want more of the higher end quality cameras that I'm going to talk about, link in the description, let me know in the comments, and I hope this gives you a better idea of, is it finally time that I upgrade my Nikon camera, especially if I want to do 4K video? Link in the description. My name is Peter. You're watching Broke Visionary Collective, where we all start with nothing, but you can always create something. Cheers.